guys asked for it, and today you're going to get it. I'm going to the mother-in-law's house. Maggie Andel's coming back, everybody. After our last video together, quite a few of you reached out and really wanted more information on the medicine wheel. Now, that's not exactly what we were talking about in the last video, so I used my creative liberties to kind of cover that part of the video so you could start to pick up what she was saying, but not quite integrate it because there were other things that needed to be integrated in that video. But this video will be her. I'm just setting her free, letting her off the leash just to talk about her medicine wheels. And this isn't the medicine wheel or the medicine wheels that I teach, and they're different to everybody in many different cultures. So this is her and her personal practice and what it's based on, or where it evolved from. But I'll let her talk about all of that. But me and you, let's go down the block and get Meg. I might even ask her a political question while we're there, because what good is being with a crone if she can't share her wisdom, right? So let's head out. It's Margaret.
It's Mary.
She's so beautiful again today.
Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming back.
Oh, yes. And I'm real passionate about what we're going to talk about today. And Mary was saying you had to think about what you wanted to talk about. And I thought, oh my, I never have to worry about, thinking about what I'm going to talk about. But it is unscripted. It will be, me just doing what I do. But I was really excited to know that some people were interested in learning how to build the wheel.
So can you tell us, first off, what the medicine wheel is? Because, like I told them, I teach 3 different wheels, but they're not the same as your personal practice. That's one thing I want to say, is that this is Meg's personal spiritual practice that she's sharing. And she said, that she picked each of these stones individually and specifically. She's going to show us the big wheel again later, but she made a smaller one to talk about all of the pieces. What is a medicine wheel to you?
Well, now it's just become, a chronological, my life, for one thing. My garden, the way the world works, the way the universe works, the way the earth works. But for me personally, I'm able to look at my life, and I'm hoping maybe that is what everybody will take away from it, because it can become extremely personal, and meditated on correctly, it can become a very clarifying thing.
So what I'm hearing is that it teaches you about your life and how the world works, so it becomes part of your spiritual practice because you can see yourself reflected in each of the steps.
Oh yeah, in every part of the wheel. Okay. Yeah, it's really wonderful. Yeah, it's really wonderful, and it gives me aha moments all the time. I mean, mm-hmm. I have them all the time when I'm there. One of the recent aha moments I had was as I was studying on the wheel and everything, and I was thinking about the north, south, east, and west, and I was thinking about all the moons and the seasons and everything, and I was trying to put the 7 days of the week in there, and I was going, there are no 7 days in the week in the wheel. I said that there's nothing 7 about the wheel. Mm-hmm. That's man-made somehow, and I'm still contemplating on that, so take what you like and leave the rest. But on the wheel, I couldn't find the 7 days, mm-hmm. As if we had created that by what's in the Bible or by our work week and when we can rest and, what days we have off, that kind of thing. So, but it's not in the wheel. But then there are a lot of man-made things that are in the wheel.
What numbers are in the wheel, if you're looking at it numerology-wise?
There's 36 stones in the wheel, and mm-hmm. so that's really unusual because that's a 9. And there's the 4 corners, but then there's the center, which is the 5.
5, yeah.
And there's the 3 moons in between each season, and there are now there, you know what? There are the 7 stones. No, but the Creator Stone is in the center. There are the 7 stones designating all the different creatures on the planet, including, ourselves. So, but
But they're not separate from the Creator, so it's still an aid.
Yeah. So I just couldn't find where there's any 7 days of the week in between the 30s, or the threes in between the moons. But it doesn't mean that we don't. It's not part of our calendar, but it just is not part of the medicine wheel calendar to me. Now, like I said, like any good teacher, and you know that as a teacher, this is going to be the medicine wheel and what it means to me so far. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be, and what any good teacher wants you to do, even the gentleman, even Sun Bear, which is, this is how I created this wheel that I found on the internet through Sun Bear's Walking the Wheel. Any good teacher wants you to take what they've taught you and apply it to your own life, because each person is an individual, and it will mean different things in different stages of your life. I found the wheel and built my first one without an understanding of it probably about 18 years ago. And then I built the outside garden over there, which had north, south, east, and west around the pond being the Creator in the center, and then there's a north, south, east, and west to enter the pond. Mm-hmm. And I look around my yard now, and there's lots of north, south, east, and wests in my yard. And then later on, after I found this wheel, I built the big wheel, that I can actually go out and sit in my garden.
I like that you said, as a teacher, make it yours. Take the medicine,
everything,
and allow it to apply to your own body personally. But I think the undertone of that was also, and don't let that be the end. No. Let it keep growing. Let it keep being medicine. Let it keep teaching you different things. Because you said so far.
I keep changing.
Yeah, you said so far.
So far. I'm just in the West. I haven't hit the North yet, where I'm going to die, but, so, and I still got a lot to do, but definitely in the East, you're not thinking about dying. You just got born, and definitely in the South, you're not wanting to be an old person, So, the wheel is evolving according to who's listening to this and what age they are. But I do think it helps with some pitfalls, if you know what you're moving towards. You're not going to be able to avoid them, though. You're not going to be able to avoid the South and the pitfalls of the South. But, and I have to say that the West, where I am right now, the integrative part of my life, glad I got there.
Well, before we dive deeply into it, what inspired you to start working with a medicine wheel to begin with?
Stones. Mm-hmm. And I became friends with a gentleman that liked the Petey River, and the Petey River is full of wonderful stones. But lots of people thank you, Mr. Wasp. But
Wasp Queen.
Yeah, but so we began collecting stones out of the Petey River, and when I went over to his house one time, I realized he had built this monolith of standing stones. Mm-hmm. And in the center was the center stone, and I knew about the wheel just because I'm in the metaphysical world, from the time I was 40 on. And I went, "You've built a medicine wheel," and it was incredible. It was huge pieces of petrified wood in 4 corners that you could walk into the center of it. The energy of it was great, and it made me think about building one over in my Zen garden, just with the stones that I had, not even contemplating what the stones meant. And actually, I had only done like north, south, east, and west, and the center stone. And then when I wanted to go into it more deeply, I thought, okay, well, what is everything about the wheel? And that's when I went on to look at, and of course you were doing it. You were working the wheel, and I already knew about the wheel, but and you and I had a thing where I said, no, I think the wheel starts in the east. And you said, well, I always start mine in the north.
In the south.
You start in the south.
Well, see, what it is, though, is I teach 3 wheels, right? And the first wheel is reflective of this one, the life cycle. The second one, which is the one that I was learning at that time and the one that I use in my healing practice, I call it the healing wheel, which is not reflective of age or the life cycle. It's reflective of emotional healing and wounds. So it, like, the south is like your core issues.
Oh gosh.
And your becoming, whereas the west is overcoming fear and ancestral imprints, things like that. And then the north is learning joy and how to step outside of time and change timelines. And the east is destiny.
Okay.
So
that's wonderful.
So like the wheel I was learning at the time that you were learning this one was completely different.
So we were
we were never in the same place.
Going, no, that's not where that starts. But I do know now that the wheel does not start in the east. The wheel starts in the north. You know, just like any garden does, everything's died down, and is actually moving forward. You know, and then coming to life in the east. I had a hard time figuring out about the north going towards the east because those stones did not make sense to me. But
well,
I know where they are.
Are you in the north now? According to this wheel?
I'm in the west now, moving.
So you haven't even made it to the north, which might be why you couldn't figure it out yet.
I'm probably in that second stone after the west. No, the first little stone after the west. Okay. I'm there now. That's probably, I'm almost 70. So that would be me, and that would be 70, 80, 90, and then you're dead into the north.
Okay, so and then you're dead at the north. Yeah.
Exactly.
You said it so matter-of-factly.
Well, it's a garden, it's a garden.
So
things die back, but then you have all this hope moving towards the east.
I like that. I'm excited. So, Jack's medicine wheel inspired you.
Yeah, Jack's medicine inspired me. Jack's inspired stones, yeah.
To start looking into this, and then how did you learn how to put all of this together and what it all means?
This particular wheel, I learned how to put it all together. At first, it was just, like I said, north, south, east, and west.
Okay, yeah.
And then this wheel came about when I wanted to delve into it more deeply, like the moons between the east and the south, and the summer, the equinoxes, and the spring equinox. What's the
equinoxi?
And what's the other one? Solstice. So I wanted to learn about that, and then in looking up, can we show that book?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And just in case you're interested, and there are a lot of wheels that you can build, but this one is, actually Sunbear's Dancing with the Wheel, and he did a wonderful job of naming all the stones and who they are, and I don't even know who they all are yet, other than the major players. I have created my own since then idea of what they are, and they don't necessarily need names to me because they're time.
So this is Dancing with the Wheel, a Sunbear book by Sunbear, and
the Medicine Wheel Workbook.
What's that one?
And this is also, I think this is a little bit older. This is the Medicine Wheel Earth Astrology, and I think that was wonderful too. I've got like 4 of his books, though. I think they're wonderful.
So it looks like that's the book, and this is the workbook.
Yeah, and that's the workbook on telling me how to build the wheel and what the wheel and what each stone means and that kind of thing. But I was outside in the garden one afternoon with the wheel when all of a sudden it came alive and lifted up more like a dimensional being, where I realized that I was in the west of my life, thinking about something that had happened to me as a child. So the east was rising up, and I realized that at any given time, I am in the whole wheel all the time. Whether, when I'm in the west, I'm always bodily in the west right now, I cannot ever physically go back to the south. The only way I can go back to the south is in my mind. And a lot of times when you're leaving like the west, you might look back to the south fondly, but the south is usually going to be you looking back on, oh my God, that was, you know, really torrential.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the east is always, as young children, is what, you know, won't it be great when I'm 18 or when I'm 21, I'll be able to do this and nobody will be able to tell me what to do. So the East is usually looking very forward to having more autonomy. But,
Yesterday we were in the pool,
mhm.
and Elias, who's 4, he decided to get out and cry because it wasn't fair that he couldn't be 8 like Jonah.
Yeah.
And I said, honey, in 4 years he'll be 8. And he just had a little meltdown that he couldn't be 8.
Right
or
now.
he said, can I at least be 5? I was like, honey, you just can't be 5. You just have to wait because you're 4.
You know, I mean, in essence, I guess if you know, if you're thinking 8, you're in 8.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the thing, of course, is to be in the present moment all the time. But what 4-year-old is going to be going? You know, I really need to enjoy being 4. You know, they just don't have that mental capacity. Hopefully, when we become a little bit more self-aware, we'll go. You know, it's going to come soon enough. But they don't know that. That is a West thing to look back at what they're doing, or you know, a South thing where you are, although you are moving. And,
I learned that when I was 37, and you know how I learned that.
Here.
Well, I'm not 37 anymore, but you know how I learned that was because I skipped my 37th year by accident. I was 36. I had a birthday, and for some reason, I thought I was 38. And I spent my whole 37th year thinking I was 38. And then my birthday came around again, and I was like, am I going to be 39? That doesn't seem right. And I even asked my dad. I said, Dad, how old am I? And he said, you're turning 39. And I was like, what? And Martin was my husband. He was the only person who knew how old I actually was. He's like, babe, you're not turning 39, you're turning 38. So I did not get to be 37. I just didn't get that whole year.
We'll have to have a birthday party for
So then,
with a 37 on your cake and just fill in the blank.
So my whole 38th year, I've been very present with being 38. So I got to be 38 twice.
I think it would be really fun to put 2 candles, 37 and 38, on your birthday cake this year. Give you 2 presents.
I like that a lot. 2 presents. I like that a lot. Well, tell us how to work this wheel. Where does it start? In the east, I think you said.
I think the wheel, and we'll take this apart. The wheel starts with the creator.
Yeah. Okay.
And
center.
You are the creator, you know, for all practical purposes. And we can take it apart and rebuild it if you want to, or we can talk about it and hope everybody gets that. You want to just leave it together?
Sure. Yeah. Honestly, you went through all this to put it together already so they can see it, and I haven't even shown the whole thing to them. But like even this small thing, I can feel the energy like out to here. Like even when I was leaning on the table, I could feel the energy like coming up on my arm.
Well, I think the stones are really happy. Color-wise, they're happy. They're, you know, how we designated them, we're happy, and I think it's going to be great. So we'll just walk through this and look at the wheel.
You feel like they can see everything?
Yes, and you can also imagine that if you wanted to do this on an even smaller scale, you could use smaller stones, because this is covering a table that is about, you know, 4 by 4, 5 by 5. But once again, if you wanted to do this in your garden and you had a large enough space to do it in your garden, you will want to space the stones evenly. But you know, my garden is, you know, very wide and has a big space. If you've got a big space, then you'll want to, you know, designate them exactly like this. But I always start with the center stone, the creator stone. And in my wheel, I consider that to be me or God. And then the next stone that I place is the north, because that's the north, yeah. I actually used a compass in my garden to walk from the center stone, find the center of the place that you want to be in. Um, and I used my compass and walked and put a big stone. Actually, I have oak stumps where the north is right now, the creator stone being in the center, and an oak stump for the north with stones on it. And then make each one. Now, the next one I did was the south.
Can I ask why we're putting it together that way, even though that's not chronologically how we go through it?
Because it was easier for me to gauge, because I'm just putting it together. Now, if you are outside and thinking about the wheel, indigenous cultures and ancient cultures, I believe, built wheels everywhere they went. And I think when you find vortexes in the earth, that is where people built wheels and put all their energy to them, like came to them, like a church, or that was the sacred spot that tribes came to because the wheel was built. But the wheel also designates time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a timekeeper as well. We're now in this moon. We're now in this moon. We're now in this moon. Okay, now it's summer. So it was a timekeeper. It's a clock for all practical purposes. It's a day clock. It's a year clock. It's
I see.
Life clock.
Okay, because I was thinking about like the ages, like the life clock. So why would we lay the north right after the creator? But it's also just a time clock and a season clock. There's many layers to it.
Well, and because I wanted the north to designate where I wanted the north in my garden especially to actually be north. So everything else has to follow, which I think is very interesting metaphysically, that everything follows the north, because I now believe that everything starts in the north. The only reason I put the south next is because I could gauge the space in my garden or on my wheel between, this is that way, and then from here to here is the same space, and there to there is the same space.
So the building of it, is this according to the Sun Bear book, or is this your personal practice of how you've decided to build it using the elements of the Sun Bear book?
Probably both. I mean, if I'm being honest, I did not read in there exactly what came next, because what you would do if you were actually building your own personal wheel at home, you would probably want to take the whole wheel apart and be very mindful about thinking about the north. Or
we need to do it, don't we?
Well, it's not necessarily even that. It's that if you were building the wheel and in time that is December or that is midnight, then you would start, or December definitely, and the 3 moons before you hit this, and the 3 moons before you hit the south, and 3 moons before you hit the west, and then the 3 moons before you get back to the year's over. And so if you were building a wheel of your own, you may start it with the creative storm, put the north there at the beginning of the year, and then designate the clans, and then when the first moon comes, you'd put it there so you'd know. Okay. And so it would take you a year to build the wheel.
I see. So this isn't something you build overnight. It's something that you spend a year building.
Yeah, it's taken me 2 or 3 years to build that wheel, although I went on ahead and built it because I'm me, but I do know that when I'm in December and I'm in midnight, that sitting in the north is a real poignant practice, to come out in the middle of the night, some nights on a full moon, and sit out in the north, or to bow to the winter solstice over here in the north, knowing that the year has started. And I do count the moons. I know which moon, we're in. I know that right now my husband's name is Randy. I know we're in Randy's moon, and I know that his moon is the flicka. And or is the sturgeon, excuse me, because that's a fish, and I really, really like that. My moon, of course, is, in March, just before spring, and I'm the beaver. I don't know absolutely all the stones. I know that um, moving from the west to the north is the raven, the snake, and the elk. And then you're in the north, who is the buffalo, but I'll explain that. But
So do you want to take it all apart and do it one at a time?
if you think that would be interesting.
Well, now that I know, it takes a year to build because you're actually going through it like that. That might be interesting. I just didn't want to take it all apart because it was so
Well,
put together.
I was gonna put all the moons in one place.
Okay.
So let's do that just for fun, because it's fun to build.
It feels weird breaking apart this energetic thing.
It does, and we're gonna build it back because the stones themselves have the energy in it, and they're just tickled to death. And these are real interesting little stones, and I'll put them actually where they belong, and so you can see very easily that what we've got is an empty space. So we've got the creator stone in the middle, and then you've got the north.
When do you lay the north down? If you're just starting.
If you were just starting, I would lay the north down first.
So when we're just starting, we lay the creator stone and we lay the north stone.
Well, keep in mind that we have now created a square. And so I think this is the fourth dimension for all practical purpose. Fifth dimension, always bringing it into where this is actually here. Looking over the house that we built. God's not, if you could imagine this being more dimensional than this at some point, but fourth dimension, fifth dimension. That's what I'm talking about. So the creator stone is the watcher, but this is the house that we live in, the world that we live in, the seasons that we live in, how the world is built, how the world is, the creator has built the world, and he's built it with the four pillars and the elements, and he's building a house, and he's got to have the four corners, because that's how a house is built.
Okay, so you put all of this down: creator, north, south. Do you go east west or west east?
I go north, and just because, but as long as you know, and you would rearrange, as long as you know you need all of these to be the same distance from the north to make your garden look interesting and to actually make your house stand.
So all of this is laid first as your compass.
I used a compass, actually drove a stake in the center of my garden with a string attached to it, so I knew that each place was the same all the way around.
Okay.
And it's a big old circle, but it's not a circle yet because we don't have the moons now. The moons are going to make the circle, but there's still the circle with the square, with the creator stone, and we're creating the world.
So today, or this month, let's say, this is July. So if we were just starting this medicine wheel, would we start building it from like the season we're in now?
Well, and we could put a moon there if we wanted to, because we've had the first full moon.
We just came out of the full moon.
Yeah, we just had the first full moon, and this is Randy's moon because he's July the 2nd, and you had that, and we can put that moon there.
So what are the months here then?
This is
January.
Yeah, that would. Don't fall down. He's over.
Fall down.
I got the kid.
It ran away.
I got the kid, and hold a second. Okay. The thing that I would build the most, of course, the creator has now built the house.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's just be the creator. Okay. The creator has now built the house with the seasons, and after that, he has built Mother Earth, Father Sun, Grandmother Moon.
Oh.
And he has built the Frog Clan, which are the animal people, or the water people. He has built the Turtle Clan, which is the land people. He has built the Butterfly Clan, which are the insect people. And he has built the Thunderbird Clan, which is the bird people.
Okay.
So everybody's here on the wheel now, and Mother Earth being trees and land and earth and everything that has to do with that, with all the with the sun that warms it, with the moon that is the nightlight, and with all the clans, and all of us are one of those clans.
So what are humans? Which the lands with the turtles?
Yes,
Okay.
we are, but we can belong, even though we are land people, we can belong to any of the other. We're just brothers with all of them.
Yeah.
We don't realize that because we're in a big old mess and we don't understand that we're brothers with all of them. And so we've got, everybody's here. And the timekeeping part begins with, we'll go to the east and we'll put the 3 moons that are in between each season. It's not as complicated as it looks right now, right? And we're going to put the 3 stones in between those, and you put those 3 stones. And I've blessed these stones, and they are real happy to be a part of this. And then we're going to put these 3 stones in between that. Now it's not looking that complicated anymore, and it's become a circle. It's become, for all practical purposes, a circle of life, like they say in the Lion King. I chose these 3 stones for the east because they're so pure looking. Same with the north, because with each age that you are, there are lessons that you have to learn, or ways of being that you are, that have something to do with each um, season of life.
Hold on. Before we get into the lessons, because I think that's going to be the big part, right? So when we are building the wheel, just if we don't know, we can lay down all of these stones except the moons, and we lay the moons down as we go through the seasons.
Yeah, if you want to do it that way and you want to take everything apart, mine stays stationary all the time now.
But you move through it.
Yeah, and I just move through it. But when you're first building it, if you want to build it as slowly as that,
and I think we should,
mm-hmm.
so we can really be present. So we're laying down creator, the directions, and thinking of the house in the 4th dimension and the 5th dimension. Then we lay down Mother Earth, Father Sun, Grandmother Moon, and I love all of them dearly. And then we honor all of the tribes of all of the brothers and sisters that we have here. So there's
that cohabitate here, yeah.
Yeah, so there's the fish people.
Or the water
people. Okay, water people, land people. I know that's sky people and insect people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we can honor all of those and then start to keep time through the moon. So what months do these represent?
Okay, well, the north, of course, would be December, which is
December.
the dead of winter. This would be the east, and I would think of it as, I don't really think of the moons designate the month, but we're definitely in, that is going to be the winter solstice.
Okay.
This is going to be the spring equinox. This is going to be the summer solstice.
Okay.
This is going to be, and then the moons designate, like this would be March. That would be January, February, March. This would be April, May, June, and then
July.
And then July, August, September into
this is October?
October, November.
So these aren't months. The big 4 stones are not months. They're the equinoxes and the solstices.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, so that's not technically December then.
No, that December would be the last moon before you hit the winter.
So January,
solstice.
February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December.
Yeah.
Got it. Now let's start on life lessons.
Okay.
I was like, wait.
So with each, I mean, I do not know exactly what they are in the book. I think of them as like wonder, wonder and interesting, awe, just everything being new, everything being clean and cleansed and brand new to a young
like
person.
curiosity.
Yeah,
Because this is
yeah,
birth and childhood.
yeah. This
right?
is yeah.
Okay.
This is really great, and I chose those stones because they're so heartfelt. And I can remember one time Martin opened the door on a fall morning, and he opened the door and he said, "Mom, there's smoke everywhere." And he was just little. It was fog. But how wonderful that is to just see fog for the first time. I mean, everything's just covered.
Innocence.
Yeah, innocence. Excitement, that kind of thing. I think those stones designate that, and you can pretty much put the name to them. But there should be there's 3 lessons learned with each one, and you can decide, for yourself what those are, or you can read what those are. I got to the point where the wheel became so personal that I did not want to go and read what somebody else's vision of the wheel was, even though it was extremely constructive for me to know to even start thinking about it. You want me to tell you?
I'd be curious to know.
Okay.
If you guys don't want to know, then just don't listen.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, he's got, everything in here that you could possibly want to know. And the 3 stones of the East then would be love and trust and growth.
Trust.
Yeah.
Okay, and love.
And
okay.
Spiritual pathways. Those would be, I'm going to have to look up each and every one of
I just like those 3. Let me see. All right, you talk.
Love and trust and growth.
And I love that, though, because in these lessons, if we think about inner child wounds, a lot of it is where they weren't safe, which would be trust, or where they didn't feel loved, or they weren't allowed to express and grow and be curious.
Yeah, wounds do begin in here. That's really sad because there's just such. And then we would have to go to the South, and he'll have a picture of what the South ones mean. And I wish I had, because you're still in purity and renewal and growth and everything from those pathways. Each.
It looks like the South is the same.
Nope.
Oh, the East is clarity, wisdom, and illumination.
Okay.
So those are the South ones, and that makes sense. So in the East and the inner child, we're looking at clarity, wisdom, and illumination.
And then you learn trust and growth. And I got these stones. I chose these stones.
I like that it's red for love.
I know. I did. I chose these stones because some of them were jagged, and that just reminded me. It is a very treacherous time in the South. You're getting a new job, you're losing a job. You're having a marriage, you're having children. I mean, even in the animal kingdom, that whole reproductive, beating on your chest or, male-female thing, it's just a really, difficult.
What
really
age
difficult time.
Would you say that the South?
I would say the South is in your 30s. If you were to look at it this way, you could go 10, 20, 30 south.
Okay.
40, 50, 60 north. West. And like that. So
70, 80, 90. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll talk about the north to the east in just a little while. But so you're dead in the South, you're doing it, you start moving towards wisdom or start moving towards integration, but it's a hard path. Divorces happen, marriages happen, children happen, loss happens a lot. There's a different kind of loss that happens in the South than there is in all the rest of them. But loss is almost inevitable once you get to. But I made that one jagged, and that's a piece of quartz, of course.
What it feels like is, as we go through this, is that especially with these lessons, even though the lessons are in positive words, because we're learning these things, we're learning wisdom and illumination. We're learning trust and love. It's like we have to go through the tough things to learn it. So it's inescapable.
It is inescapable
to think that we're not going to have hard times. Like this is showing us we're supposed to be going through tough times.
And the wheel helps me see that in the South. Maybe if I had had this, I would have been able to see where I was and what I was doing. But I've had the opportunity just recently with somebody who lives in the West and feels fairly integrated and has made peace with, all of these things, because you can't go back. I mean, in the South, you can sit around all you want to do and worry about what happened to you when you were a child, but you're not going to be able to change that. And the sooner you just integrate it, and no matter how horrific it was, integrate it and let it go, and don't keep yourself here. We keep ourselves in certain places. And that's a really hard thing to do. And I'm not saying, people that have been through horrific situations are going to find that a very easy thing to do. But it's futile to want to go back and make the past what it was not. And it does hinder your present all the time. So being in the present moment and seeing what you have in the present moment and making it count is really wonderful. But I've had the opportunity just recently when I think I've got everything, thought through. I've been in the West. I'm in the West, and I've been watching. I get to watch people doing things that I know would be better to move past, and just not to stay in that. I know that this is
because you're here looking back with all of your lessons.
Yes, and in looking back, you can't not look back at your own life, because where you're coming from when you see that might not work is you're learning your own self. And so I've had the opportunity just recently, and I'm real grateful for it, to go back over how torrential it was in the South and how many pitfalls I fell into and how I could have been more peaceful in this particular point in my life. And I mean, I've even had moments where I went, oh, Lord, what in the world was I thinking? But I love the South, but I look at it with a lot of forgiveness and with a lot of knowing that there was no way in the world I could have done it differently. So, because I didn't have those tools. So I do look at it like that. But I did have the opportunity recently to really look back over lots of people, lots of errors and that kind of stuff. But it's real funny about looking back over it like that, though this time I was not blaming myself with it. I was just really looking at it and remembering it. And it is difficult to remember, your past. But I don't have to live in that. I've made restitution with all of that. Now, do you want to go to what you learn because I got all kind of...
So in the East,
in the West.
So in the West, we're learning experience, introspection, and strength.
And so I chose
experience.
I chose a lot of heartstones for that, just because I just did. They were just calling to me, and they were pink and green and everything. So you've got to really look back on yourself when you're integrating. You've got to look back on yourself with a lot of love, with that, and understanding of where you were, and love for the people that you think that you hate back here. Getting rid of the West is a lot about getting rid of thinking that you have to still hang on to stuff and hate things that happen to you. That goes, in the West you can go all the way back to the East. So there's a lot of love you've got to have for your little self, for people who might have given you a really hard time, because
we're really not even getting to the West until we're around 80, is what I'm hearing.
We're getting to the West when you're around 60.
Okay.
Or
so here
in your 70s. I'm in the West, and that first moon would be 70, second moon 80, 90, and then north. So keep in mind that's a solstice or a equinox.
So this could be a range then. So we're in the east,
Moving
kind
around.
of around like this. Is that like, is there a parentheses here?
Yes.
Okay, so we can be in the east as a child until like 20 something ish, and then 30, 40,
Yeah.
50, we're kind of in the
Yeah.
south, and then
Yeah.
60, 70, 80, you know, we're west.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
somewhere in my 40s, I was dead on starting to integrate, starting to see everything more clearly, like it works on the wheel. Now, for me, I can go no further for you because I am in the west, moving towards the north, and that is no man's land for me. And just recently, I mean, I do not know what's going to happen 70, 80, 90. I can look back all I want to. The north, when it's older and it has not died yet, can look back through the entire wheel, and you'll notice with older people, they will go back to their childhood and tell you how it was and what it was like. And but I do know that even in the west, you begin to look back and be able to see what people are doing that might not be in their best interest.
That wisdom.
You won't be able to stop them though, and you're not supposed to. They get to work their own wheel. But in the west, it really, that integration of everything that it's talking about in there, and the forgiveness, the just incorporating it all, it is your life. And then I have recently started really working the north garden. I thought if you don't make that pretty, if you let that keep weeds in it, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So
it's when you die.
because
maybe the north is supposed to be full of weeds.
Because in
You're
each
dead.
one of these, like in my garden, in this whole east thing, I have a lot of daffodils planted in here, and I have daylilies that come up in the summer here, and I have my daylilies. I have different things that I plant. If you wanted to, in here in the winter between the spring, you could plant pansies all in your medicine wheel. Sun Bear talks about the fact that there's all kind of offerings and everything that you can make to each one of these things that seem poignant, like sage or sagebrush or whatever it is that you want to bring to the wheel when you come to it as offerings. And then in the north, those three stones, and I'll let you place them unless you've got more to.
I don't know that it says the north lessons, the lessons in death. It doesn't have it.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. So what do you have there for those stones?
I don't know.
Because you're not there yet.
I'm not there. I'm not there yet, and you're almost like, which is also real interesting when we talk about the north, because I'm definitely, a lighted, spiritual. If you get to be 100 years old, I can't even imagine, because your body is definitely not allowing your mind and your body are definitely not going to be in the same place, because the mind is always free to travel as much as it wants to, or move around on the earth as much as it wants to. But your I I think in the north you will probably think about contentment. You will learn lessons on contentment, about not expecting that you can do what you did any other time in your life. It's going to slow you down if you live in the north for a really long time. Your body's not going to allow you to move forward, but your mind is always going to be able to be as active as it ever was. And it's an unusual place because I don't know it, and so I'm trying to tend it.
Yeah.
And get ready for it, so that and somehow or another, from the west to the north, your body in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s begins to get you in that path. My friend Susan had a spinal stroke in her 60s and literally said that learning how not to move, to only be spirit, at that early age was something that she found extremely difficult, because she was still so active in her mind, and it was taken away from her so quickly that was just really something that she found so impossible to deal with, to be stopped when you hadn't started, when your body hadn't even started getting ready to slow you down, so that you read more, so that you painted more, so that you did more, slow, solitary things. So I know that was really difficult.
I have two questions
Okay.
before we move into the moons between the north and the east, and because you said that they kind of represent something too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, or maybe that's what those are.
Well, those are just things that you learn
The
in the north, and I contemplate that those will be the lessons, and I get ready for those by contemplating forward. But in the wheel, you can't. In the east, you can't know what happens in the south. In the south, you can't know what happens there. In the north, in the west, you can't know what happens there. You can go back in your thoughts in the wheel. You cannot physically go backwards in the wheel, but you always go back in your thoughts in the wheel. And as long as you do that with love, this teaches you to do that with love and compassion, and to release all hatred of anything that came forward. That's the reason I chose the heart stones for the.
So my first question is, how do you believe the archetypes of maiden, mother, crone fit into this?
Well, obviously, in the South, you're a crone because you've gone to the trouble to actually let that. A crone to me.
In the west or in the south?
In the South.
You think crone is here?
Yeah, well, I think she's here. I think she's here the most. But obviously, you have, because of your studies and everything, and you're contemplating in this, it's very possible. I don't see her ever in the East because it's just too new. But
that'd probably be maiden.
Yeah, and crone being these two. Although that right there is just the white buffalo for all practical purposes, which is designated by. This is designated by the eagle. It's taking flight. This is designated by the South is designated by the fox or the jackal or the coyote. The trickster.
The tricksters.
The West is designated by the brown bear, the hibernator. The introspector, the putting on lots of weight and that kind of thing. And then over here in the North, we've got the white buffalo. We've got almost the God spirit, because you're going to be meeting
the Creator.
If you're not lucky enough to already meet the Creator, and the wheel always almost helps you meet the Creator and the plan early if you work it like that. And because I have met, which is real interesting. I have met my Creator, and I'll tell you about that when we're talking about these stones over here between the North and the East, because I kept thinking, okay, I know everything out here. What are those three stones? What are those three moons? What is that space between death and birth? But we talk all the time about that premortal existence where we're planning our life, where we're getting together with all of those people. And I started thinking, okay, where we're getting together with everybody, or we're getting together with ourselves and deciding what we want to do with this lifetime. And I met myself, my planner, the person, the me that planned my life. I have met her, my sixth dimensional self. The Godhead being, of course, in the center, but I have, and all of this is a preparation for getting yourself together. I do believe that that's what those three stones are. Once again, this is the world according to Meg. When I'm contemplating the wheel, and those three stones made no sense to me until I let them be the pre-existence. And for however long those stones take, it doesn't appear to take 10, 20, 30. I don't know. But it takes a space and time before we come back in again from the North and the white buffalo to move into the East and be born again, but that takes a lot of planning. And it takes a lot of people, and it takes a lot of me saying, okay, Mary, when I get to be, you know, X amount, you're going to marry my son, and then you and I are going to, you know, and you're going to help change the course of my existence. You know, the same thing. I'm going to have children, Martin, and you're going to be one of my children, and y'all are going to change the course of my existence. Or I'm going to meet Susan right early on, and she's going to be a player throughout my entire life, you know, and teaching me those lessons. So everybody has a purpose in here, and nobody comes into your life and is a major player, even if you hate them, without being a part of that space and time and planning out your life so you can learn your life lessons. So that's why there's no regret once you look back at, once you're in the West and you look back over there and you have a big picture of this, is that you realize that nothing is happening by accident. Everybody's played a part. So you can let your hatreds of anything go. It's a must, by the way, to let your hatreds of everything that came before in order for you to heal yourself and integrate all your life lessons.
Well, now I've thought of another question.
Okay.
So, maiden, mother, crone, that seems to be just like whenever you start having children, you know, and again, parentheses, so these might be maiden, this might be mother, this might be crone, and then, but now I have another question, because I'm sitting here staring at the people stones, you know, and I realized, well, this is a water people and land people. These are air people. So, earth, air, fire, and water, do the insect people have any representation to fire?
I haven't really. I do know that they represent the four elements.
They do represent the four elements.
Yeah, they do represent the four elements. Air, I would think, yeah, fire, water, and land, and earth, yeah. Because they definitely are doing that. You know, Pisces, I would be, you know, I would be prone to be with the with the frog people. You know, you would be, now they call the bird people actually the thunderbirds. So I don't know whether they're more fire and the insects are more air.
Okay, all right.
Because they do call them the thunderbirds. And I think of the phoenix when I think about the bird people or the thunderbird people.
So in your practice, the bird people are the fire element.
In my mind.
In your practice.
Yeah, in my practice and what I imagine them being, that is what I imagine them being. And I think that as long as they're included, I'm not sure, but in my mind it doesn't matter. But yeah, I see the insect people as being with wings and but light air wings, and the thunderbird people as being soarers and phoenixes and fire people. Yeah.
So my third question then is, where, with everything going on in our society right now and politically, where do you think we are? I want to say the word collectively, but I feel like it's more, I feel like the word really kind of hones in around politically because they're different. It's almost like what's happening collectively is a side effect of the people in charge right now, of what's happening politically. So politically, where on this wheel do you feel like we are as we go through time?
Well, there's two things going on here. First off, you're young, so you don't remember when we were exactly in this same cycle back in the 60s. You know, so right now we are once again in a cycle, I believe, of the South. We're definitely not in a loving place right now. We definitely haven't integrated anything. As a matter of fact, it's all falling apart. But then back in the 60s, when the Vietnam War hit and the government tried to make it so that all 18-year-old males had to sign up for the draft and go fight a war that nobody understood, and it was against the law not to do that, the government once again took action to control the people and make the people do things that they did not want to do. And you went to jail if you didn't go fight in the Vietnam War with the draft. And so that's why all that fighting came about. That's why young people began to push back against the insanity of older people, and the 60s happened, and free love happened, and we're not going to do that, and the civil rights happened. I mean, it was a huge upheaval that you didn't live in, and I lived in it. I was 7 years old when Kennedy died. I was in second grade. I was um, 13 years old when when my friends' brothers started going to the Vietnam War. Woodstock was not mine, but that's going to go through cycles also. Nothing is stationary, and every generation gets to learn the lessons of fighting back against oppression. But we're definitely in the South because it's angry and it's unsure, and it moves towards an integration of, if it doesn't destroy us, it moves towards an integration of that doesn't work. Only peace works, which is where it moved towards just a little bit back at that particular time. So I think we keep moving. I think the wheel is just so alive and can't be stationary. And so sitting there and thinking about where we are in this time, I think we're in a sometimes I find myself letting myself go to we're in a dangerous time of annihilation without integration. But like we won't be able to go to the West one more time. But we went to the West before, and we went to the West after the Civil War, and we, went to the West after the Vietnam War, and we may go to the West again after this because it wakes people up. People have to be woken up. They get complacent, and the wheel of life wakes you up. That
It makes perfect sense. So we're going through all of these things and we're learning what works and what doesn't so we can go into integrating that wisdom. But you know me, I'm a thinker. So I'm sitting here looking at all of this and I'm thinking that there seems to be a cycle of 5 or 6 between these things, depending on how you look at it, like 50 years or 60 years. So a 5 or a 6. So I'm trying to find where in the wheel the 5 or the 6 is, so that it can rise up in my vision and I can see exactly how the world's cycling.
Well, look at it and tell me.
I don't know. That's what I'm looking at while you're talking.
Because I know that there's thing, isn't it?
Straight from creator to a direction is a 5. From one direction to another, if you count the directions themselves, is a 5.
Well, keep in mind at any given time, the creator is here, but this is also you. You can stand on the stone and you can rise above it and look and watch it and not be affected by it. If you stand in the creator has he's the watcher. He built the thing and he watches the thing work. And we can do the same thing. Is build the thing or see the thing from the creator's point of view. That's the 5th dimensional. That's what the 5th dimension is all about.
Got it. So, if you think about this as...
Because this is this, once again.
So if you think about... So this is just what I saw for a second. If I took all of these elements and players out of it, and again, we went back just to the house...
the 4th dimension.
And the 5th dimension. What I suddenly saw was like a needle and thread pulling together all of these corners and then going, and it was suddenly like a big bag or a container is what it looked like. So everything here is really held in this container of 5. So...
And this is my world, and this is your world, and your interpretation of your world, and this is everybody's world, and an interpretation of their world. Everybody interprets it different and should.
So,
and all of the elements are there.
so the only way in my brain to tie together the cycles that we're going through is to rise into that fifth dimensional space where, like, all of this doesn't matter as much as bringing all of the corners together into that container, because it's not like a five between here and a five between there. It's a we're cycling through fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, okay, we're going to be in the
We
south.
cycle through like in a nanosecond. We don't know it. It seems like a long time, but I promise, by the time you reach 70, you will realize this did not take long at all.
Like, we can sit here and learn something and cycle through this entire thing in 5 minutes
And
if we have the capacity to do it. So it's like, okay, we're in the south right now, but hopefully in 6 months to the next year, you know, we're going to be even past this. There's going to be the death of something, and then we're going to have a rebirth and a new rising and everything. So it's
as
not
slowly and as quickly it happens, and it can happen very quickly, or it can happen very slowly.
You have to take the time stones out of the equation in order to bring those dimensions together and just have the house and the creator.
Yeah, and on the
I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes sense.
It does make perfect sense, because you and I are both sitting here. You live here or here.
Physically.
I live, physically. I live there. This is the time of day right here. It is. It's almost 11 o'clock, or, you know, whatever. So this is the time of day here. And this thing has so many purposes. But yes, when you contemplate it and you look at it as you are the creator, you know, when you stand in the place of the creator and you look over, it gives you a great deal of peace about how fast and how slow and how. I think it's really interesting that the South and the North are right across from each other, because that is a physical death, and there's so much metaphysical death going on here. And the East and there, the being excited about being here and the integration of being here are opposite each other. I find that to be very interesting, because I'm able to be with my grandchildren and just love the way they look at everything.
I love that.
Yeah, and I relish looking at things through their eyes.
And I'm sitting here finding it interesting how this is the time of day right now. This is also the month that we're in right now. This was the moon you were talking about earlier, and my birthday, I'm August, so I'm going to be here. So, like, everything for me is, like, right here, right this second. So it's very interesting.
I find it really interesting when I'm sitting in the East and my body is in the South, or my body's in the West, and a problem I have might be a South problem. You know, or I might be working in the garden in the North, you know, physically, you know, working there. That it's always, I'm always in all the places of the wheel. The birds are out there singing, the butterflies are out there flying around, the flowers are there, the sun is shining. I'm right in the middle of Mother Earth and Father Sun, and in the middle of the night, you know, there's Grandmother Moon out there, but everybody is whirring around me, and it's a living, breathing thing if you start doing that, and it makes you responsible. And it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I love rocks, but you know, if you were a water person, you could build this out of shells on your table. If you were a plant person, you could build this out of flowers, you know, dried flowers, and let it be that. I just happen to have an unusual amount of river stones and beach stones, and you know, you build this out of bones if you want to, that you've collected. And but
it's funny, we were in the same thing. I was like, well, I'm an animal person. I can't get them to stay still long enough to build a wheel out of them. And then you were like, bones. So it was like we were in the same place.
Bones, yes, skulls, whatever you wanted to build your wheel out of. You know, I find the stones have a lot of energy, and they have a lot to do with surviving on this planet. So they give me a lot of, I've got some stones that are, you know, this big around, and they're round stones, and I found them in the bank of the Petey River, and the river had to be the lapidary from all the way up north, where all the way up in North Carolina or up in those mountains. That has to be a mountain stone that the river turned into its own lapidary that cut those edges, that threw it into the bank of the river when the river changed course. And I dug it out of the river, and it's a perfectly round, smooth mountain stone. There's just a lot of energy in the stones and how they were built, whether they were built by fire or pressure or water or however they were built. They carry that with them. So I really like the stones. And,
Well, thanks for showing us this. This is a lot, but not a lot at the same time.
I know, it's real
if you
simple,
can
isn't it?
understand it, yeah, it's, you know, and it gives us a different way to be introspective on multiple layers. So, do you want to show us your
Yeah,
big wheel now?
You could just go over to, let's go to the Creator Stone.
Okay.
And there's the Creator Stone, and all 7 stones are Mother Earth and Father Sun and Grandmother Moon and the Turtle Clan and the Frog Clan and the Butterfly Clan and the Thunderbird Clan. And then you go over to the north. The north is over on the stump right here.
Over here. Okay.
Yeah, this is the
This is the north.
winter solstice, and you've got the 3 moons moving you over to the east.
That's
1, 2, 3.
3.
And you're in the east, and those are the lessons. Those stones designate the lessons that you learn in the east.
Okay.
And then you walk those moons, 1, 2, 3. There's probably 4 on there, 3. And then you're in the south, and you've got the jackal over there, and the fox, and you've got the 3 lessons that you learn there. And then you've got the moons between the south and the west, and you're in the fall equinox, and there's my little brown bear over there, and you've got those lessons. And I do know that these stones are the raven and the snake and the elk moving towards the north, which just seem like wisdom animals all over the place. And then you are in the north. You're in the north, and the 3 lessons you learned there. And then I believe you're in the pre-existence, moving back towards the east again. And that's my garden. And I've got chairs, where I can sit at any given point. Like I said, my chairs are over in the north right now, and I'm really tending that little garden. The daylilies were beautiful in there this year, but I just decided I needed to make the whole north really. I had not been worrying about it quite so much, and it's probably really important that I do that. So, and that's just the garden. And out there, we've got the birds in the trees, and the butterflies and bees and the zinnias, and everything's just kind of alive. I've stopped using pesticides at all, to spray anything, and so roaches are prevalent. I didn't have much trouble with the roaches when I had chickens, but my chickens have passed away, so I need more chickens so that they can keep the roach population down. This is like the circle of life. But I'm really glad everybody was able to see it.
Well, thanks so much. Hand me your snake stick. I just want people to look at your art.
Okay.
You guys can't see me really good, but Meg is a wonderful artiste, not because she spent tons of time and skill, but because she sees the soul and the spirit of whatever element she's working with and brings it out. So this is her serpent staff, and it has the cutest little face.
And he just turned out so pretty. He was already.
What kind of wood is this? Do you know?
I want to say that is a stick off of the
There's like a little notch
off
right
of the
here.
fig. I think it's a fig, and he just dried out really good, and I ended up sanding him down. I thought he sanded down real pretty. Yeah.
We'll say goodbye to everybody. Thanks for coming.
Bye. Thanks for coming. It was wonderful. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.